you for taking time to join our webinar today. So allow me to share my screen to get us started. Okay, hope everybody can see the screen clearly. So today I'm going to talk about the evolution of digital customer onboarding. Now, as we know, I took this from McKinsey's one of their articles. If you can see what's happening in the world today is that, everyone know that, we need to go digital. But prior to the pandemic, when we were talking to many businesses, all of them were saying that, yes, we know that digital is very important. We are looking at it, we are coming up with pilot projects, we are doing POCs to get this accelerated. But it was never in the number one priority of many organizations. But what we witnessed last year, 2020, with the height of the pandemic, is that the situation has actually pushed enterprises or even businesses to basically accelerate their adoption of digitization, by at least 3 years globally. And in Asia Pacific, where we are, is even faster. It has gone all the way up to 4 years. So businesses are now moving into the digitization space, even faster than we think they are, right? So this is one of the trends that's ongoing. Now, when we talk about digital onboarding, this is just to share with you the experience that we have gone through and what we have seen in the market. The very first adopter for digital onboarding that we see in the market are actually the telcos, the telecommunications, because you talk about many telcos having the need to actually register the customer that actually onboard to their platform. When we see is that in the early days, 3 to 4 years ago, the telco was the first one who actually adopted eKYC to verify the identity. But even back then, it was very much only, in the prepaid segment. It was very much later, I would say, probably 2 years ago, that they start to move into the postpaid plans, where they are also bundling with phones to be given out. So the risk got even higher. Before this, it was just a prepaid SIM card. After that, they talk about postpaid bundling of phones and all that, and they were actually starting to adopt these eKYC or digital customer onboarding in the last 2 years. So we see that happening, and everyone, when we talk about digital onboarding, they would think of the bank. But actually, before the bank aggressively moved into this space, it was the fintech boys that actually came in and actually took up a lot of these adoptions. So whether is it investment tech companies, whether is it insurtech companies, or simply remittance or any kind of fintech, they were the one that were actually dominating and taking this market back about 3 years ago. And we only really see banking moving forward, with adopting and even launching. They're not just adopting, but we're talking about launching eKYC initiative aggressively only in 2020 and this year 2021. And even that, it's not at its peak yet. There's still a lot of opportunity in the banking sector to move into digital onboarding. That's the trend that we see. And this thing will continue to grow, especially in this region, in our Southeast Asia region, we start to see that Singapore has actually advanced with a lot of digital banking, license issuance. Malaysia is following suit soon, and a few of the other countries always doing the same as well. And so that will be the next, with the digital bank that's actually coming on board, that will actually use digital onboarding next. But what we are seeing today, this year, is that new segments of the market are actually picking up digital onboarding as well. So what are these new segments that we are talking about? So new segments is that I would actually categorize that the non-telco, non-fintech, non-financials that typically people associate with eKYC are now moving into this space as well. So everyone with the pandemic, they start to realize is that I can no longer depend on my 1,000 agent or my 100 branches or location to onboard customer anymore, because the moment there is a lockdown, and we all have been through the COVID pandemic for more than a year, and we all know that and what we all see is that there are restrictions, and then things get better, open up, and we get back to restriction again. Now, this trend will keep on moving, and COVID will not be the only contagious disease that will exist. There will be more and more different kind of COVID that will come in the future. We don't know when, 3 years time, 4 years time, 5 years time, but this will be a repetitive cycle of how the world will be. Now, with these businesses now realize that we cannot depend on our physical channel anymore in whatever things that we do. And it has also changed the way that customer interact. Customer no longer feel comfortable interacting with a lot of strangers right in front of them. So digital has become a mean for many businesses to basically go on or to change how businesses will function. So what we have seen, and those that I list here, there's actually a long list of what the new segments can be. But what I list here are basically the day-to-day businesses that never thought that they will be looking at eKYC or digital onboarding have today reached out to us and to start having discussion with us on how can we digitize the onboarding process for their business. And these are just some of them that I'm listing. We now have a customer that's doing car sharing, or car rental business that actually is using our eKYC. So what they want is the ability to pre-qualify and access someone who's going to take their car and have all the documentation verified before the customer comes, so that when the customer comes and pick up the car, the face-to-face interaction is minimal. And for those car sharing platform that even have actually integrated the car with an app, technically then you don't even need to see the customer, so they can just online verify themselves, go to the location where the car is, use the app, unlock the car, go in, start the engine, and start driving. So this is car sharing platform, how to do it. And later I will show you a video of one of our car sharing customer, how they're actually using our particular platform for this. We're also talking to companies that start doing things like car test drive. It used to be test drive because there's an insurance that you need to register, there's a risk to it. So whenever you do a car test drive, you have to basically fill in a bunch of forms, let the salesperson verify your ID before you even get into the car. But how can you minimize all these processes? You do not want customer to sit in your showroom filling up all these details for a long time. What you want is to have the ability for someone to see an ad in Facebook and say that, hey, I'm interested in this new model of Toyota. I want to book for a test drive. And they will be able to pop up the screen and ask you to do an eKYC of yourself. Then the moment you are done, someone will call you and make an appointment to say that tomorrow we'll bring the car over. Or in real time, they can even check, immediately that, hey, we have a car that's 15 minutes away from you. Can the salesperson come over now with the car? And the moment you reach there, a scan of your selfie will allow them to verify that you are the person who they have verified, agreed to everything on the mobile app, start driving, and maybe even record the whole driving process. This is how things can change in the future. And now, of course, everyone is saying, hotel and airline are in pretty bad shape because nobody is traveling, right? Because of the whole COVID thing and the restriction. But what many hotels and airlines are already quietly doing at the back is to reinvent themselves for post-pandemic travel. So when travel start to ease up and things start to open up, you look at Europe, you look at America, when they have reached the certain vaccination rate and all that, they are already opening up for tourism. Thailand, Phuket is opening up for a sandbox for vaccinated tourists. So in those essence, when that thing happens, you want to minimize the risk at your property or when you're operating your planes. So what you want people to do is that they should now be able to basically do everything from the phone, including verifying their own identity, checking in, capture their selfie so that when the moment they reach the airplane door, a camera will verify that you are that correct person, and immediately you go in without any interaction with the staff. Same with hotel. Can I do my identity verification, pre-check-in, and on my way to the hotel, I already do a pre-check-in, and with the moment I reach the hotel, I have already been assigned with a room number, go to the lift. The CCTV in the lift will be able to recognize my face and allow me to press the floor that I'm supposed to go to. when the moment I reach my room, I can use an app to unlock my room door. That will be the what we see as the future of the post-pandemic travel. And through technology like eKYC and onboarding, we can actually enable all that. And we also have one customer that's in the property tax segment that's also using eKYC now, because think of it this way, when you are leasing your property out or you're renting certain thing out, you want to verify your tenant's identity. Over here in Malaysia, we have many cases where, people actually take up a tenancy, but they actually use it for illegal activities. Yeah, whether it's they're doing a scam from the side, they're making a drug lab, or Bitcoin mining that's illegal, stuff like that. So you want to authenticate the people that's going up to your platform. It's also very useful for any things like student and membership enrollment. We were just talking to one of the private universities here in Malaysia a couple of months back. In fact, I was surprised that their enrollment, you would thought that, because that particular university target foreign students that come to Malaysia, and you'll be surprised that with the pandemic, their enrollment have actually increased. The reason of the increase is because we thought that people can't come to Malaysia. How can you enroll more foreign students? Well, the thing is that many of the foreign students got nowhere else that they can go as well because of the pandemic. So when you have something that you can enroll online, you actually get more students. But how do you make it easy for your business to verify them? Yeah. So this is how we foresee the future is. Yeah. Digital onboarding, eKYC, is no longer restricted to the typical industry that we know that will use it, but it will apply to almost every single business out there. Every single business out there will think of a way of how can they function efficiently, how can they still operate their business 24/7 online using digital, supported by digital onboarding process. So this will be the future of what we are seeing that's going to happen. Now, with digital onboarding trend, and why is it really picking so well is because when you look at it, it creates a different experience for the customer. All right. Of course, there will be some because of regulation, regulate tech. Yeah. So if you are in a certain area like investment, insurance, and all that, of course, you have to answer to the regulator and make sure that your thing is secure. There will also be a reason where you want better customers experience. Yeah. Customer want things fast. They want things to be secured. That's also one way to look at it. But the thing to be careful is before we go into digital onboarding, we have to also realize that digital fraud is also a trend today. In fact, these are just some of the information that we pick up, from the internet, and you can see that the amount of digital fraud is very, very high. There are many reasons why does digital fraud happen. Of course, the most direct is they try to use your identity, for example, to take a loan, to get a postpaid mobile plan that comes with a phone, things like that. So all these are the different things that's happening. Even government initiative, when the government give out certain aids or incentive to the public, these are also things that, a lot of fraud can happen. So when we want to adopt into digital onboarding, we got to be aware about fraud and how can eKYC technology help your business to prevent that. Of course, with the growing opportunities in onboarding, everyone got no choice but to actually move forward with it. All right. These are just some statistics from Gartner. That you look at it by 2022, 80% of the organizations will be using document-centric identity proving as part of their onboarding workflow. So it's actually an increase of 30% from today. And another 1 year later, you will see that 75% will be using a single vendor with a strong identity capabilities to basically look at their basically whole entire onboarding process. So what are some of the risks? Of course, this is very straightforward. Fraudulent identity, it can also equals to financial loss. And if you're in a regulated industry remittance and all that, yeah, you may also breach being fined by the government. So there are a few types of online identity fraud that you have to look out at. From our experience, when we look at it, they will be document tampering, meaning I take the one that we see a lot, that happen in our customer cases are basically they go to internet, they look for a ID photo, they download that, and then they start to basically edit on it, and they try to use that to do some onboarding, or they print it out. Yeah, the most simple fraud is actually they print it out, they try to use a marker pen to change the wording. So for example, number 3 to be number 8, number 9, number 8, stuff like that. 7 become 2 or things like that. And that's what a lot of them try to do. So document tampering is something that you need to look out for. Of course, fake documents, they photocopy, right? And then information tampering, impersonation. So meaning is that I have your ID, a copy, somehow I have a copy of your ID, but I'm putting my photo on your ID. Yeah, I will stick a piece of my photo on your ID and try to be you, right? So there are many things that actually happens from there. Or biometric fake. So for example, we always ask them to do a selfie. Some of them will basically take a photo or the selfie from a piece of photo or from a computer screen of someone else. So those are basically some of the different things that will happen. Just to give you a bit of insight, this is just an example here. Yeah, I do not have the examples for the Philippines ID, but I'm just taking a Malaysian identity card. So when you look at this, from a naked eye, will we as a human being be able to tell which of these is basically a genuine and non-genuine ID? So you talk about the traditional process is that, we submit a photocopy of the ID and all that, we send it, some officer took this up and they try to basically then look at the whole entire thing. All right. But if we look at it, the whole specimen, we can see that basically the one in the middle that looks a bit clearer is actually not the real ID, but the number 3 on the right is, the first one is. So what we do is that we use AI. This is just one of the example of the element that we check. Right? So we check for many things, holograms, microprints, security landmarks, and so on and so forth. So we use AI, and AI is able to help us pick up all this stuff that the human eyes will not be able to pick up. And this is another example. Yeah, if you submit a photo like this, it looks like a genuine ID, right? But actually, this photo is taken from a computer screen. But with AI, we will be able to detect that this is not taken from a live card. This is taken from a computer screen. So these are some of the other things that this technology need to pick up. And of course, why do we do selfie and all that? Is to basically do a matching. Now, if you look at this 2 person, they look similar. And if I were to pass this to a officer to basically do a check, most likely they will pass this photo because the 2 person looks very familiar. But in fact, the person in the right is the actual owner of this selfie, and the person in the left is actually someone else that look alike. So it can be confusing to a human, but to an AI, we are able to precisely measure the accuracy of matching in terms of this photo and person. Yeah. So because in human eyeballing, what happened is that there's a few weaknesses that we see. First, it's not real time. Yeah, and it can also be inconsistent judgment from different officer. Yeah, I may think that this person looks like this person, the other person will say no, this person doesn't look like that person. And how do you scale up? When your business just started, if your volume is not big, 1 or 2 officers is fine. But if your big business pick up, how do you do it? And with customer these days, they expect things like 24/7 respond. Can you respond under a minute at 3 a.m. in the morning? So these are also the different things that we look at. And what if your business need to support a lot more than the local identity document, right? A lot of businesses also support travelers, yeah, or PR, or business visitors, or expat, and they will come with all sort of different document types. So we support all sort of global passport to also include as part of our solution. So in essence, when you talk about deeply about what is eKYC, yeah, it's actually an ID verification process, yeah, that basically help you to prevent, yeah, ID fraudulent. And how do we do that? This is just a quick overview of how this can be done. Basically, we divide the solution into a few modules. Right? First, we always capture the ID. Yeah. So whether is it through a OCR, through the phone camera, a snap of the ID, or for example, if there's a passport, we can use the NFC function in the phone to read the passport. Then we will capture a selfie of the customer and do a liveness check to make sure that the person in front of the phone is basically a live person, not a piece of paper, not a computer screen. Right? Then we do a facial matching of the live person with the selfie of the live person with the ID photo to make sure that they are the same. Now, when that is done, there's always the challenge question that, hey, how do you know that the ID that's been captured is a genuine ID? And that's where the fourth component, OkayDoc, come in, where we do document verification, where we then check, is hologram presence, is certain thing like microprint or whatever security feature present in the card that has been scanned. Is there any type of tampering that is detected? For example, I use a marker pen, yeah, to change some of the words. The font will be different. Will the AI be able to pick that up? Or I paste a piece of my photo on top of it. Yeah, can the AI detect that there's an edge there that's coming out, and therefore there's a possibility, yeah, that this is a tampered document? Or simple things like photocopy detection or even screen detection. I'm taking a photo of an ID from another computer screen. So these are the different things that the AI pick up. And once that is done, what we can also do is that we have another module called OkayDoc, where we use RPA to basically then connect to the various other third-party data sources to do further validation on the identity of this customer that you are basically onboarding. So the OkayID, the first component, as I explained, yeah, is basically an OCR function where we support ID documents from the whole entire ASEAN regions. In the Philippines, we support the UMID, driving license, SSS, professional identity card, and of course now we are looking forward to support the Philippine national ID as well. Right, and what it does is basically, other than picking up that photo, is also picking up the relevant information from the OCR. At the same time, if there is a passport that is needed to be captured, we can OCR the passport as well as for each passport. We can also pick up, yeah, the NFC reading from the passport itself. And when that is done, this is the part where I mentioned, we then check for liveness of that person. Then we do a comparison, the facial comparison between the live person in front of the camera versus the ID document to make sure that it's a match. And these are just examples of how the matches look like. So for example, we are saying, someone who wears a scarf, will that affect the quality of the facial recognition matching? Actually, no. As long as the main features in the face is not blocked, you will not have issue. So you can see here the example is the first column is the live face, the second column is the ID photo. All right. So in that case, it's still able to pick up. The second row is basically my selfie, yeah, versus my ID document, and it's already almost about 20 over years since I last took my ID photo, and the system is still able to pick up. Yeah, although I have actually aged quite a lot from the time that I took my ID photo. For the third column, you can see the difference of the person here, who his real ID photo is the one, yeah, on the third column. But on the fourth column, we put in someone that look alike, and the system is successfully able to pick that up. And this is just another Example, someone in the ID photo who doesn't wear a scarf, but today she does, and the system is also still able to pick that up. So the different things that we use in our algorithm to basically also detect if the ID presented in the photo is genuine will also depends on the different countries. So even like in the Philippines, the different document would have different security feature. In the UMID, for example, you have hologram, but in the others you may not. So these are all the different things that we look out for when we develop support for algorithm for each of the different ID. All right, so photocopy detection, landmark detection, screen detection, these are something that I mentioned that we check. If they are hologram or microprint or things like that that's available, we look out for those as well. Font type, font size checking, those are also important, yeah, to counter cases where, you know, people manually try to change the content, yeah, of the ID. So content substitution as well. Holographic is like the example of UMID here, where you have the small holographic photo versus the main image photo to make sure that it's a little harder for them to even paste just a piece of photo up there. Right? And in some countries, ID, we do data consistency check or format validation or checksum digit validation as well. So this is what that we do. Passport. Yep, so we support global passport as well. We check with, you know, things like the RIS and the MRZ to make sure that they all match. Yep, then OKDB is something that we use to basically connect to any third-party data sources. So example, in the Philippines, we can connect to the credit bureau, yeah, to basically verify, not just a credit report, but also verify that this person exists, or any other data source that you have. Or we also work with AML database provider as well to do this kind of check. At the same time, we are also working with certain telcos in certain countries to also check if this subscriber actually exists in your database. So this will give you an additional validation of the person ID, because in eKYC, end of the day, is all about what is the risk factor of your business use case that you are going to use to adopt eKYC. Is it something of high risk or low risk? Would the common eKYC module be sufficient for you, or you actually need something more than that? Right? So it really depends on the business risk and the nature of business that you are in. All right. So what is important is that you need to select the right technology according to, you know, your user journey and what you want them to experience. Yeah, it's also important to align your business case, all right, on the actual acceptable outcome. Now, what it means here is that AI is able to give you a score or outcome. Now, weighing your business risk against that, how much do you want to take it? Is it something that, for example, 70% is good enough for you, or must it be 100%, or must it be 80%? The more stringent you are, the harder there is for customer to onboard. The less stringent you are, it is a lot easier for a lot of customer to onboard, but maybe even those that are not the real customer to onboard as well. So what is your risk factor? So that's something that you need to decide when you adopt this kind of technology in your business. All right. And of course, what we do is that we allow component-based adoptability. So we are not saying that you must take all the modules that we have, because in certain use case, you may say that my risk is very low. I only want to do a OCR and facial recognition, and I don't even need the other module. All right. And in our business, we are able to actually provide the customer on that. So risk mitigation, end of the day, is the key thing that you got to look at when you adopt this kind of technology. Yeah, very briefly, I'm just going to show you a video in a while of how, you know, one of the new segment customer that actually using our platform. But quickly, you know, Innovative, we are actually based in Malaysia, and we actually have representative partners, yeah, in most of the ASEAN countries, yeah. And we are very focused, yeah, in the eKYC space. These are just some of the different kind of customers. So we have from telco to banking to fintech to even the new segment type of customers that we are talking about, e-wallets and so on and so forth, that's actually using our technology. To date, we have last year we have done about 3.5 million ID verification that's been processed on our platform, and this year we're hoping to do double of that, up to 7 million. These are just some of the awards that we have. So other than winning the award, what is also important is that our system are ISO 27001 certified, to ensure optimized information security management of our system when we provide it as a cloud service to our customer. So the last keyword that I like to leave with you is that we have to think of technology like that, which is AI, as your co-worker. So what it means is that it does not mean that tomorrow I adopt eKYC, I can forget about looking at customer onboarding and let it run automatically. It does not work that way. eKYC is using AI to help you to minimize the things that you've got to look at. So it helps you to let as many cases that is positive to pass as possible, but those that is been flagged by the system as cautious is for you to take a look and to do your own due diligence. That's what eKYC is really all about. And the more layers of eKYC to do, the better it is for your business. So what I'm going to do is I will quickly share with you a video of one of our recent customer who have used our eKYC. So this is a new segment customer that we talk about. This is called KL Easy Car. So they are not in any business, but it's more of car rental. So this is how KL Easy Car use it. They actually integrate our eKYC in their app so that they can basically perform customer onboarding 24/7 digitally anytime, at the customer convenience. So that when the customer is approved and payment is all done, the moment they see the customer is just to collect the car and go off. So this is just a video recorded of how the KL Easy Car app actually works. So you can see from here, it's not just the national ID document, but also the driving license. So in this kind of eKYC flow, we can even incorporate multi-type of ID document that you need. So with that, you can see, how new businesses are also picking up on the adoption of digital onboarding and also eKYC. And KL Easy Car is just one of the examples of how many businesses out there can actually also adopt this kind of technology. Yeah. So so thank you. That's all that I have. LV, thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. George, for the insightful information about eKYC. We are open to question.
Okay, I think I see two questions.
We have two questions. So first is, what kind of ID support that Emas eKYC can do?
So, okay.
And so, another one is, can accessories affect facial recognition accuracy rate?
So I start with what kind of ID support. So it can be any different kind of different ID. Mainly for us, we support the whatever ID document that's in the ASEAN countries that we support that. We support the passport, international passport. So meaning any modern day passport, the MRC base is also supported. And of course, specifically in the Philippines, then we support SSS, driving license, UMIT, professional service card. And of course, moving forward, we'll be looking forward to support the national ID of the Philippines as well. And so we have a whole different list of that. Actually, if you go to our website, you can also go by the different countries, and you can actually see the different kind of ID document that we support. Now, on the second question is that can accessories affect facial recognition accuracy? No, not really. So for example, if I take off my spectacles, my glasses, and when I wear my glasses, it does not affect that. A chain, those are okay, earrings and all that. No, it doesn't affect. Even if today, if I grow facial hair, yeah, I will still be able to capture the accuracy itself. Unless I'm wearing a mask, then yes, that will basically lower the accuracy, but it can still be done. Yeah, just that the accuracy rate will be much lower because since the pandemic last year, what happened is that many facial recognition engine are also fine-tuning their engine to basically recognize mask wearing. But of course, with mask wearing, you basically lower the accuracy rate a lot more, because when you look at how facial recognition is being done, the AI is basically cutting my face into many pieces, and they will compare each of them. Certain things do not change even as I age. That's why in my ID photo that's 20 over years ago and myself today, for example, the width in between my eyes is still the same. The size of my eyeball is the same. You know, so these are the different things that the algorithm is basically checking. Unless I go and do plastic surgery, maybe I lift up my nose is okay. Yeah? But if I change so much that when I come back to office and they even ask, excuse me, who are you? People don't even recognize me. That is when the facial recognition engine will not also be able to recognize you. So by right, in those cases, you have to also go and update the photo on your ID document. Yeah, so that's how the facial recognition technology works.
Yeah, I hope we answered your question. If you guys have more questions, you can drop it in the Q&A box. Maybe George, you can put on the slides where they can contact us.
Sure. Yeah, so feel free to go to our website, innovative.com, yeah, to find out more information. And we even have by different ASEAN countries, what are the things that we support. Can also feel free to go to, if you want to look at the video that I showed you just now, it's actually on YouTube. Go to YouTube, search for Innovative, and you'll be able to see not just KL Easy Card, but also the different telco, e-wallets, banking, and all the other different segment customers, or how they are also using our eKYC in their app.